Thank you for joining us today. Obviously, you all know who our speaker for today is, Braja Devi Mataji. And Mataji has inspired many devotees in our congregation. And, she came to Krishna consciousness 5 years back or so when she met devotees at the Hare Krishna festival in Labra. I said this in her last class as well while introducing her, but I thought I'll do it again because many people were not there in the class. So please bear with me. She instantly took to Krishna consciousness and started coming to the ISKCON Leicester temple. Mataji lives a very simple life. She likes reading Srila Prabhupada's books and listening to lots of Krishna Katha. She loves knitting beautiful outfits for her own Gauranitai deities. She also loves cooking sweets at home, and especially the delicious Indian sweets. And she's made sweets for many programs when the temple was open. Braja Devi Mataji is from Italy. She loves doing devotional service and has been engaged in many services at the ISKCON Leicester temple, like cleaning or admin work for Sankirtan or inviting people to the temple. She's contributed a lot and is still eager to contribute more and more. Mataji has done some really good book distribution services before. Many devotees have been inspired by Mataji's book distribution service. Some people call her as the Krishna book lady at the city center here in Leicester. Mataji was engaged in the backup service for Sri Sri Radha Madhav, their lordships. Mataji is an initiated disciple of His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj. She's involved in a new project, which is quite exciting, really. If some of you have heard about it, some of you haven't. It's about convincing hotels and B&Bs, the bed and breakfasts, to take Bhagavad Gitas for the rooms for the guests. I wish you all the best, Mataji, for this service and many other services for the temple. And thank you for your contribution to ISKCON Leicester. I look forward to your class. Hari Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, can you hear me?
Yes,
ma'am.
Yes, okay, because I'm using the computer, so it's not so reliable. So thank you so much, Prabhu, for the kind words, and certainly I don't deserve so much kindness. So I'll start with Jai Radha Madhava, and then we can go to today's verses. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachara Yamuna Tira Vanachara Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Rama. Sayam Vishnupada Paramhamsa Charya Stottara Sadasi Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Sayam Vishnupada Paramhamsa Charya Stottara Sadasi Srimad Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. His confounder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ramsek of Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sri Vasadi Gopal Ki Jai. Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Shri Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Radha Madhava Ki Jai. Shri Krishna Chandra Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Shri Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Yamuna Mai Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Brihat Mritanga Ki Jai. Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Lord, all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Shri Guru. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Mataji, your voice is a bit low. Probably you might have to bring the laptop closer to you.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, Mataji, yes.
Is it better?
Yes, it's much better.
Okay. Prabhu, can you put the verses on the screen?
Yes, Mataji.
Thank you.
Yeah, the verses are on, Mataji.
Okay. There is a problem. It's very blurred. Maybe I can read as well. Okay. Yeah, it's a bit blurred from my computer. I hope that other devotees can see.
Yes, it's clear for us. Maybe open it in your screen, Mataji. That would help. I think so.
Yeah, it's not a problem for me. I have the book as well. And the important thing is that for devotees they can see, then it's fine for me.
Okay, fine.
Vyasanam vikshatatisham ananya vishayatmanam sudarshanena svastrenam svanan raksham vidyadhat vipuhu. Word for word translation. Vyasanam, great danger. Viksha, having observed it. Tat, that. Tisham, there. Ananya, any other. Vishaya, means. Atmanam, thus inclined. Sudarshanena, by the will of Sri Krishna. Sva astranena, astrena, by the weapon. Svanam, of his own devotees. Raksham, protection. Vyadhat, did it. Vibhuhu, the Almighty. So sorry, I forgot to say that we are reading from Canto 1, Chapter 8, And this is verse 13. The Almighty translation by Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The Almighty Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, having observed that a great danger was befalling his unalloyed devotees who were fully surrendered souls, at once took up his Sudarshan disc in order to protect them. Purport. The Brahmastra, or the supreme weapon released by Ashwatthama, was something similar to the nuclear weapon, but with more radiation and heat. This Brahmastra is the product of a more subtle science, being the product of a finer sound or mantra recorded in the Vedas. Another advantage of this weapon is that it is not blind like the nuclear weapon, because it can be directed only to the target and nothing else. Ashwatthama released the weapon just to finish all the male members of Pandu's family. Therefore, in one sense, it was more dangerous than the atomic bombs, because it could penetrate even the most protected place and would never miss the target. Knowing all this, Lord Shri Krishna took up at once his personal weapon to protect his devotees, who did not know anyone other than Krishna. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord has clearly promised that his devotees are never to be vanquished, and he behaves according to the quality or degree of the devotional service by the devotees. Here the word Ananya Vishayatmanam is significant. The Pandavas were 100% dependent on the protection of the Lord, although they were all great warriors themselves. But the Lord neglects even the greatest warrior and also vanquishes them in no time. When the Lord saw that there was no time for the Pandavas to counteract the Brahmastra of Ashwatthama, he took up the weapon even at the risk of breaking his own vow. Although the battle of Kurukshetra was almost finished, still, according to his vow, he should not have taken up his own weapon. But the emergency was more important than the vow. He is better known as the Bhakta Vatsala, or the lover of his devotee, and thus he preferred to continue as Bhakta Vatsala than to be a worldly moralist who never breaks his solemn vow. Text 14. Antasta sarva bhutanam atma yogeshvaro harihi svamayaya vrinodgarpham vairatya kurutantave. Word for word translation. Antastaha, being within, sarva, all, bhutanam, of the living beings, atma, soul, yoga ishvaraha, the Lord of all mysticism, arihi, the supreme Lord, svamayaya, by the personal energy, avrinot, covered, karpam, embryo, vairagyaha, of Uttara, Kurutantave, for the progeny of Maharaj Kuru. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. The Lord of Supreme Mysticism, Sri Krishna, resides within everyone's heart as the Paramatma. As such, just to protect the progeny of the Kuru dynasty, he covered the embryo of Uttara by his personal energy. Purport. The Lord of Supreme Mysticism can simultaneously reside within everyone's heart or even within the atoms by his Paramatma feature, his plenary portion. Therefore, from within the body of Uttara, he covered the embryo to save Maharaj Parikshit and protect the progeny of Maharaj Kuru, in which King Pandu was also a descendant. Both the sons of Dhritarashtra and those of Pandu all belonged to the same dynasty of Maharaj Kuru. Therefore, both of them were generally known as Kurus, but particularly when there were differences between the two brothers' families, the sons of Dhritarashtra were known as Kurus, while the sons of Pandu were known as Pandavas. Since the sons and grandsons of Dhritarashtra were all killed in the battle of Kurukshetra, the last son of the dynasty is thus designated as the son of the Kurus. Text 15. Yadyapyastram Brahma Shiras Tavamukham Chapratikriyam Vaishnavam Teja Asadya Samashamya Prikupatha. Word for word translation. Yadyapi, although, Astram, weapons, Brahma, Shiraha, supreme, two, but, Amogham, without check, cha, and Apratikriyam, not to be counteracted, Vaishnavam, in relation with Vishnu, Tejaha, strength, Asadya, being confronted with, Samashamyad, was neutralized, Brikudvaha, O glory of the family of Briku. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. O Shonaka, although the supreme Brahmastra weapon released by Ashwatthama was irresistible and without check or counteraction, when confronted by the strength of Vishnu, Lord Krishna, it was neutralized and foiled. Purport. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is said that the Brahmajyoti, or the glowing effulgence transcendental, is resting on Lord Sri Krishna. In other words, the glowing effulgence known as Brahma Tejas is nothing but the rays of the Lord, just as the sun rays are rays of the sun disk. So this Brahma weapon also, although materially irresistible, could not surpass the supreme strength of the Lord. The weapon called Brahmashiras, released by Ashwatthama, was neutralized and foiled by Lord Sri Krishna by his own energy. That is to say, it did not wait for any other's help, because he is absolute. Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manubhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Svapatantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapatakamalам Shri Guru Vaishnavam Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Ragunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvitam Savadutam Parijana Saritam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakha Vitam Sham Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namani Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Shunyavati Ashtapyati Shatari Panchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Mahavaganyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gore Tvesha Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagapate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namaste Takta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Pranamami Hari Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Ram Ram Hare Hare Rama Hare Rama Eva Kevalam Kalam Nasteva Nasteva Naste Vapatiranyata Hare Krishna devotees. First of all, I'd like to express my gratitude to Karuna Chaitanya Prabhu for giving me this service and to speak on Srimad Bhagavatam. And although I'm certainly qualified to speak on Srimad Bhagavatam, I'm very grateful for this service. So thank you very much, and I request the blessings from all senior devotees gathered here that that I may speak something inspiring for you and something that can properly glorify this wonderful literature of Srimad Bhagavatam. So today's verses are really nice verses, really amazing. And for me, the main point that stands out is the protection, is how the Lord protects his devotees. And here we see how Krishna is protecting Maharaj Parikshit in Uttara's womb, and is doing that even at the cost of breaking his vow to not fight in the battle. So he's still like taking his Sudarshan disc and protect his devotee, even though he vowed not to engage in fighting. So I thought it's also a very nice theme, this theme of the protection, because we are approaching the appearance day of Narasimhadev, who is known for his pleasure in protecting his devotees and in protecting Prahlad Maharaj from Hiranyakashipu. So, and also this theme of protection is a theme very recurrent in Srimad Bhagavatam, as is it also mentioned in the 10 main themes of Srimad Bhagavatam, is one of the 10, and we can find in all the cantos how the Lord protects his devotees. So it's a very wonderful subject. And then also another thing that we can find in these verses is how the Lord is exhibiting his opulence of strength here by counteracting this very terrible weapon, very, it says, irresistible and without check or counteraction. So it's a very powerful weapon of Ashwatthama, but still it was counteracted in no time by Krishna. So it's a very great example of his exhibition of the opulence of strength that we also can see also in Narasimha's pastimes, and how he protected Prahlad Maharaj in such a powerful and wonderful way. So before starting going deeper into these verses, I would like to offer glorification of Srimad Bhagavatam, and I found a couple of verses just to set the mood and to enter in this wonderful scripture. So I found a couple of verses in Canto 12, and the first one is in the 13th chapter, and it says, Srimad Bhagavatam is the spotless Purana. It is most dear to the Vaishnavas because it describes the pure and supreme knowledge of the Paramahamsas. This Bhagavatam reveals the means for becoming free from all material work, together with the process of transcendental knowledge, renunciation, and devotion. Anyone who seriously tries to understand Srimad Bhagavatam, who properly hears and chants it with devotion, becomes completely liberated. So it's a very wonderful verse. And to me, this verse is like it's like a recipe. It's putting together all these ingredients to get out of the material world, and it's saying that Srimad Bhagavatam has all of these. So it's like a it's like a recipe. So that the first ingredients, the first item mentioned, is this process to get free from material work, from karma that binds us to this material world. And we see in Srimad Bhagavatam how this process of devotional service is constantly mentioned and explained throughout the Bhagavatam. And especially there is a wonderful chapter in the first canto. The second chapter was about the glories of devotional service. It was my absolute favorite chapter when I started reading Srimad Bhagavatam. And there is a very wonderful verse about how devotional service has to be uninterrupted and unmotivated to completely satisfy the self, which is an amazing description of pure devotional service, and a wonderful inspiration to know where we should aim to be. And the second ingredient mentioned here is transcendental knowledge. So we see in Srimad Bhagavatam how very detailed descriptions of the Lord are mentioned, and that's to help us to remember Him with such detailed description of His form, of these devotees as well. And then the third ingredient is renunciation. It's mentioned here, and we see throughout the Srimad Bhagavatam how it's mentioned how these very pious kings would practice meditation at the end of their lives. They will go to the forest and they will go and practice meditation, absorbing their minds on the Lord, and showing us how they were not at all attached to the material comforts that royal life can give. And we see how much it's different today, like with people in the government positions, that actually they're so much attached to their positions and their comforts and their facilities that they don't want to leave the position. They struggle very hard to get it, and they don't want to leave it. And most of them, like even at the end of their lives, they're still there. There is no practice of vanaprastha or anything. So, and then the fourth ingredient we see here, the fourth item, is devotion. And we see in Srimad Bhagavatam there are lots of stories of great devotees and their relationship with Krishna, how they interact with Krishna, and how they pray to Krishna. There are lots of prayers to help us in our meditation, to help us to get to that prayerful mode and to develop devotion, and culminating, of course, like in the 10th canto, where we can find like all the relationship and how like Krishna was interactive with is devotees, especially the residents of Vrindavan. So, and that's why Srimad Bhagavatam is mentioned here as the spotless Purana, because it's not about increasing material comforts or increasing the material standards of life, but it's about getting out of this material world through these processes and through this through the help of Srimad Bhagavatam. So the second verse that I found in glorification of Srimad Bhagavatam it's also in Canto 12, and it's in the 12th chapter, and this is a really amazing verse. I really love this. it says, those words describing the glories of the old famous personality of Godhead are attractive, relishable, and ever fresh. Indeed, such words are a perpetual festival for the mind, and they dry up the ocean of misery. So I'm sorry, I'm very visual person, so I like these verses that you can picture, you can have like such a clear image of what they're saying. Like for example, here it says like what's most standing out in this verse for me is the Srimad Bhagavatam is like these words in glorification of the Lord, like Srimad Bhagavatam is a perpetual festival for the mind, and that's why like it's given also these very wonderful qualities that of attractiveness, like if we imagine like a festival, like its attractiveness and how it's enjoyable and how it's mentioned here like ever fresh, so that one never gets tired of it. And it reminds me another verse in Canto 9 that where Krishna is described as a festival for the eyes. So in the same way, like here, the words glorifying the Lord are described as a festival for the mind, and they're like the form of Krishna is described as a festival for the eyes. So I thought it was a very nice connection between the two. And another very graphic image here that I really like is that these words, like we find in Srimad Bhagavatam, that they dry up the ocean of misery. So if we can imagine like being like drowning in an ocean and suddenly being rescued by the Srimad Bhagavatam, it's a very wonderful meditation. And we can have the experience, like we can see how we feel afterwards reading Srimad Bhagavatam, like before we can like do as an experiment, we can watch the mind dealing with a problem, an issue. Like sometimes you can feel overwhelmed, like drowning in an ocean, because we may feel like hopeless or in so much anxiety for something. And then after reading Srimad Bhagavatam, it's like seeing that everything is exactly as it should be, because we understand that Krishna is in control of everything. So there is no point to worry, and that's the essence of Srimad Bhagavatam, that Krishna is all powerful, so there is no reason to be overwhelmed by mundane problems or whatever problems we may have that is just relating to a temporary condition in this world. So this was my little glorification of the Srimad Bhagavatam to enter the mood of this wonderful literature. So let's go deeper into these verses in the theme of protection and how the Lord protects these devotees. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna states the purpose why he comes age after age in this world. And he says in chapter 4, then whenever and wherever there is a decline in religious practice and a predominant rise of the religion, he descends himself. So, and then he goes on to say that to deliver the pious and to annihilate the miscreants, as well as to re-establish the principles of religion, I myself appear millennium after millennium, it says Krishna. This is the verse 8. So Prabhupada says in the purport that primarily Krishna comes to protect his devotees and to deliver his devotees. And then he also kills demons, but he doesn't actually need to come to kill the demons, because that could be done also by his energies and associates. But he comes especially for his devotees. So then we, on the other side, we can see how Lord Chaitanya didn't actually kill anyone when he came, but he killed the sinful propensities, the demoniac propensities in everyone, and he attracted everyone to Krishna consciousness. So in that way, it is said in Chaitanya Charitamrita how his weapon was his beauty and his associates that will attract everyone to Krishna consciousness. And it's interesting to to hear how devotees got attracted to Krishna consciousness, because most of the times is more through the devotees than the Krishna consciousness process itself, especially at the beginning. I was listening to a lecture by Vedana Swami Maharaj, and he was saying that, like, he was asked why he chose Krishna consciousness among all the religious paths that he came in contact with, and he was saying that all religions are actually teaching love of God. The essence of all religions is to learn, to develop this devotion and to learn how to love God. But he found in Srila Prabhupada a person he could surrender his life to. So that's why he came to Krishna consciousness. And I was thinking also how I came to Krishna consciousness. I remember I was the very first devotee that I met at this Hare Krishna festival, and he gave such a simple presentation of Krishna consciousness that I still remember it. And he said, when I asked him, like, he was showing me around, and I asked him, okay, so what's your spiritual practice? And he said, well, we sing mantras and we dance and we eat. That's what we like to do. I was like, it's quite amazing. I think for many people it could be like very attractive presentation of Krishna consciousness, but for me I was like, how is that supposed to be spiritual? I was very not so much convinced. But then when I heard the mantra, when I heard the Hare Krishna mantra, I was very attracted to that. And then I remember there was Sutta Prabhu was giving lecture, and I remember I wasn't not so much impressed by what he said, more than I was impressed by his presence. I was thinking this person has something special that I want to know more about it. And then I remember another devotee I met, and she said something about the Ganges, and I was even more confused. And I was like, how is a river supposed to be spiritual? I'm like, a river is material. How is it spiritual? But still, like, even that devotee also had such a strong impression on me that I was thinking that this person has something special that I want to know more about it. So in that way, I think that sometimes, like, devotees get attracted more to the example of devotees than the process of Krishna consciousness itself. That attraction may come later on in the spiritual path. And Radha Swami Maharaj said something very interesting in a lecture also. He was saying that Krishna consciousness preaching is not about conquering people with philosophical arguments, because that can also create all sorts of all kind of false ego as well. But it's about transforming people's hearts, because and inducing them to chant the holy name. So that was very inspiring for me. And another point we find in the purport of these verses is that the devotees are never vanquished. Prabhupada is mentioning in the purport that in Bhagavad Gita, the Lord has clearly promised that his devotees are never to be vanquished. And that's the verse on and the verse on chapter 9 and the 31st verse, that he says, declare it boldly that my devotee will never perish. So it's a very strong statement here that Krishna is saying that his devotees are fully protected, are fully under his protection. And in the purport, Prabhupada is mentioning how the Lord protects his devotees with the holy name. And the holy name is like a protection from Maya. So that as long as we keep on chanting, we won't be so much affected by Maya, by the illusory energy of the Lord. And here I was reflecting on how Lord Chaitanya is even more merciful than Krishna, because he's giving a love of God freely to everyone who is willing to accept it. And like while Krishna in Bhagavad Gita asks for surrender, Lord Chaitanya just gives it to everyone. So, and I remember I was a while ago, some years ago, I was distributing books in Brussels, in Belgium, and it was a very difficult place. Like I was, the devotees there told me that they had no Sankirtan at all because it was too difficult. Even Harinam, most devotees were stopped and harassed by people, and so it wasn't a good situation. But then we know that where there is more, the most tough places, the more the difficult the service, the more opportunity to get blessings. So I thought, I don't mind, I want to try anyway. And I remember at the beginning, because it was so difficult, I was trying to make people chant Hare Krishna on the street. I would ask them to say Hare Krishna, to just, attract the mercy of Krishna. But that was so difficult. People wouldn't even do that. So then I thought this place is really difficult. So let's try with Gauranga's name. And then and I remember at one point it was really amazing. This guy came, and when I asked him to say Gauranga, he went like mad. He started jumping around and shouting loud, like Gauranga, and he was jumping all around, and people were watching, like, what is doing? Like, what's the matter with this person? And as I was watching him, like, going away, still chanting Gauranga's name, and loudly with all the people watching him, I was thinking, this this is Krishna's mercy, this is Lord Chaitanya's mercy. So from this point, it's surely like things will change and things will go well. And actually, indeed, actually, I met a very nice person, and then he actually gave such a big donation. He sponsored all the book that I brought from Leicester, so it was quite transcendental. And then, of course, I also got harassed by one guy, and I was kind of sent away from that place. But that's another story. But that was my small realization on the power of the holy name, and especially on the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. And then another point we find in the purport is that the Lord acts according to the devotee's surrender. And here Prabhupada is mentioning that the Lord behaves according to the quality or degree of the devotional service by the devotees. That the Lord, this point of that the Lord reciprocates according to the devotee's mood. And there is a wonderful verse in Bhagavad Gita in 4:11. And it says, Yeyatamam prapadyante tam sataiva bhajamyaham mama manuvartante manusyaha partha sarvashaha. As all surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. Everyone follows my path in all respects, O son of Prita. So here the Lord is saying that, like, if we can imagine, like, if one sees the Lord as everything, the Lord sees that devotee in that way, and how we can understand this. I mean, this is inconceivable, like how the Lord can reciprocate to each and every devotee in the same way that they're reciprocating with him. It's the omnipotence of the Lord. And Radhanath Swami Maharaj was mentioning in a lecture how whatever we put into the service is what we get out of it. So it's like in the same way that in the way we approach the Lord, we got the reciprocation. We got the reciprocation of the Lord in the same way. That's the same for the service, for example. Like if we approach the service as a task to do, I have to do this. What we get out of it is just we complete the task. That's it. But if we serve the Lord in such a way that we want to have the connection with Krishna, then what we get is connecting with Krishna. And that's the same for japa, for example. If we approach the japa with the intention to just finish the rounds because I have to do something else, then what we get out of the japa is just that we finish our rounds. But if we our intention in our meditation in the japa is to please the Lord, is to try to pray to the Lord, to serve Him, then what we get is that we develop that mood. One devotee was telling me that a good way to check our mood and to be in a good space is to always ask ourselves, why are we doing this? Why are we doing service? Why are we trying to advance spiritually? And so there is a very wonderful passage in Chaitanya Charitamrita about how in what mode the Lord actually likes to be approached by the devotees. And it's a chapter 4. And this is a very special verses because it's about how it's like entering into the mind of Krishna is the Lord's thoughts. So it's amazing verses. And it says, Lord Krishna thought, all the universe is filled with the conception of my majesty, but love weakened by that sense of majesty does not satisfy me. If one regards me as the Supreme Lord and himself as a subordinate, I do not become subservient to his love, nor can it control me. In whatever transcendental mellow my devotee worships me, I reciprocate with him. That is my natural behavior. So here again, it's saying the same thing, that is, he reciprocates according to whatever mood we have approaching Krishna. So, and he said that love is weakened by the sense of majesty that Prabhupada is mentioning something very interesting on this in the previous chapter of Chaitanya Charitamrita. It says that giving too much attention to understanding the exalted glories of the Lord reduces the chance of one's entering personal loving affairs with the Lord. In that way, of course, we cannot imitate like the spontaneous love that the devotees, the residents of Vrindavan had. If it will be like a child who is trying to run or riding a bike while he hasn't even learned to walk, it's impossible. But we have it's an inspiration to understand where we want to be. So it's an inspiration for us to see the progression, how devotional service bring us closer and closer to Krishna, to the point of such closer relationship with Krishna, with an intimate relationship that, for example, Prabhupada was giving the example that, for example, a minister is relating differently with his subjects, like his citizens, or his people working for him, than his family members or his children, and that's we find in so many religions, like this this conception of awe and reverence. But here the Lord says that this sense of majesty doesn't really satisfy him, that is a closer relationship with Krishna, to go beyond this conception of awe and reverence. So then to just quickly mention about this exhibition of the opulence of the Lord, of the strength of the Lord here in these verses. And it is said that in the scriptures how the Lord is full in 6 opulences, in strength, fame, wealth, beauty, renunciation, and knowledge. And here the opulence of strength is exhibited, where Krishna is counteracting Ashwatthama's weapon in a very easy way, because like it is said in Bhagavad Gita, it says that like all the everything beautiful. There is a wonderful verse in chapter 10. Krishna says, know that all opulent, beautiful, and glorious creations spring but from a spark of my splendor. So here is mentioned beauty, but we can relate this to the strength as well, so that whatever strong we can find in this material world is actually a little spark of the strength of Krishna. That's even this invincible weapon of Ashwatthama is easily counteracted by Krishna's strength. And we see here like how we can find the connection with Narasimhadev's pastime, that he easily defeated Hiranyakashipu, although Hiranyakashipu was so strong, and like the strength of his austerities were to such an extent that everyone in the creation were obeying him and respecting him, because it was so powerful because of the strength of his austerity and mystic powers. But still, like for Krishna, it wasn't much of a trouble to destroy him and to protect his devotees, Prahlad Maharaj. So I'll just a quick recap of what we discussed today. So we started with the glorification of Srimad Bhagavatam, and mentioning how in Srimad Bhagavatam we can find these processes and these items to get out of the material world, which are the process to get free from material activities, the transcendental knowledge, renunciation, and devotion, all present in Srimad Bhagavatam, and how Srimad Bhagavatam is like a festival for the mind, and how it can dry up the ocean of misery. And so in that way we can be rescued from drowning in this ocean of misery of material world. And then we went on to the main topic of these verses, which is the protection and how the Lord protects his devotees, as he says in Bhagavad Gita, how he comes to protect and to deliver his devotees. And then he says also how the devotees are never vanquished, and how the Lord protects his devotees with the holy name. And then we talked about how the Lord acts according to the devotee surrender and reciprocate according to the mood of the devotees, and how he actually likes what kind of mode the Lord actually likes to be approached by the devotees, which is this mode like beyond that kind of awe and reverence that creates such detachment from, create like a barrier to the relationship with the Lord. And then we mentioned how here it is the strength of the Lord is exhibited through the protection of Maharaj Parikshit in the womb of Uttara. So it's 8:45, so I think I'll stop here. Thank you so much for tolerating me, and if you have any comments, correction, questions, please go ahead. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you so much for nice class, covering all the points from Srila Prabhupada's purports. Thank you so much. It was wonderful to listen to.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. Wonderful class.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you for a wonderful class.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji, thank you for the lovely class.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you.
It looks like everyone is satisfied with your class, Mataji. Thank you. No, there are no questions. Our Grace Braja Devi Mataji ki jai.
Jai.
Next week, we're going to listen to Sri Vrindavan Prabhu, and I think we're going to start the actual prayers of Queen Kunti. So I request all of you to join. Thank you, Mataji. I'll end the class now.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you so much.